What's happening? A good Friday morning to all of you. Thanks for joining me. As always, it is very, very much appreciated. Getting ready for day 2 of the NFL draft. Of course, we had our live reaction last night following the pick of Drake Maye. I loved the pick. I was thrilled with the pick. Take the big swing at 3. We went through the bad. We went through the good of Drake Maye. Try to give you guys as much information as I could about your new quarterback, the future of the Patriots franchise, Drake Maye, QB1. All right, now we focus on day 2. And already we have people tweeting, we have people talking about what the Patriots could do. Just a few moments ago, before I jumped on the air with you, Josina Anderson posted, I'm told the Patriots had preliminary trade discussions on 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel prior to the NFL draft. Now, of course, last night we talked about it. Tom Curran reported that the Patriots had been working on a Brandon Aiyuk trade. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Josina Anderson says this morning that the Patriots also had conversations with the Niners about Deebo Samuel. And my number one question for that is, what's the cost? How much are you giving up to get Deebo Samuel? Because I would not give up a ton. It all depends on the price. Deebo's 28 years old. He's taken a lot of big hits. Last year, 60 catches, about 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, about 15 yards a catch, so still productive. And especially given the fact that he was producing when you had George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk, Christian McCaffrey, and all those weapons that San Francisco has. So Deebo still had 60 catches and about 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's making $21 million on the base this year, and he has an out after this season. Then he makes $16.6 million rather next year. The other issue I have with this idea of Deebo Samuel is that he's not an ex-receiver. We've talked about what the Patriots need. The Patriots need a bona fide ex-receiver. As Eliot Wolf said, going back to his press conference last Thursday, Wolf said, we have a guy that can play the X in KJ Osborne, but we don't have somebody who can beat the backside coverage consistently when we roll out a 3-by-1 formation. And Deebo really is not that guy who can beat the backside coverage consistently on the 3-by-1. He's not that alpha outside receiver. He's more of like the Z. So I wonder if Josina heard this, and I'm sure she has good sources, and she heard that they were talking about Deebo Samuel, but I do really wonder. If they're more focused on Brandon Aiyuk. And I would imagine, here's just my thought, not to say the Patriots wouldn't trade for Deebo Samuel if they can't find the X, if they can't find the veteran X, then maybe you do put KJ Osborne as your X, but you have absolutely improved your wide receiver room by bringing in Deebo. If you replace, a Juju Smith-Schuster with Deebo Samuel, it's an upgrade. But my guess is Eliot Wolf is more hunting Brandon Aiyuk as the asset, hunting Brandon Aiyuk as the true X receiver, and maybe Josina Anderson got this information from the 49ers, and the 49ers, who are trying to trade one of Deebo or Aiyuk, according to reports, I would imagine that they would rather trade Deebo than Aiyuk. So if this came from San Francisco's side, it makes sense because San Francisco might be trying to sell other teams to believe that the Patriots and Niners are talking deal for Deebo to try to drive the price up and make another team desperate to maybe give a little bit more than they want to give for Samuel. He's not nearly as good of a fit as Aiyuk because, again, he's just not that X receiver. But if you can upgrade your team, I'm all for upgrading your team, right? I'm all for upgrading the team. Kendrick Bourne, obviously, he's coming off of an ACL. You don't know how he's going to react to that. Tyquan Thornton is a big question mark. After what we saw from Juju last year, you don't know what you're going to get from him. Pop Douglas is a slot receiver, I think he can be very good playing that position. So you got Pop on the inside. Maybe you mess around with Osborne and Kendrick Bourne at the X and you move Debo around. Like, Debo is still a really good football player. I would just want to know the cost, and we all would have to understand that he does not fill that X void that you have. All right. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to thank the people that are in the chat for being part of this chat. Don't forget to thank your fellow listeners and viewers for supporting this program. And I thank you for chatting, being a part of this community. I thank you for giving us that thumbs up as well. So don't forget to give us that thumbs up on YouTube. More thumbs means more eyeballs. So give us that thumbs up. Subscribe as well. Trying to hit 3,500 subscribers. That's the next goal. We're going to get there. It's going to take some time. And once this draft is over, I understand not as many people are going to watch this product until we get back to camp season. I get it. So let's try to make that push. Give us that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Of course, rate and review Spotify, Apple Pods is how you get us in that audio world. Jump into a super chat here from Steven, $2 super chat. Thank you. Pats are going to trade back from 34, unfortunately. Yeah, I want to roll through the different scenarios because honestly, Steven, I feel like trading back is an option. I would not be surprised if they did trade back, but we will get into some of the different opportunities that I think Eliot Wolf has today. So again, thank you for the super chat, Steven. I think Eliot Wolf is in a perfect position, honestly. And I'm not saying that just to say that. I'm not saying that to be overly optimistic because they drafted Drake Maye last night. Honestly, when you look at where the Patriots sit today, they are in a fantastic position. The value of the 34 pick is even higher than I thought it would be because of how the board fell. How the board fell. You had 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first 12 picks. Because you had 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, which is amazing to me, my mind is still blown. My mind is still freaking blown from the Michael Penix pick. But you had 6 quarterbacks taken in the top 12. So you had a quarterback taken every 2 picks through almost the first half of this draft last night, which is just crazy. And because you had those 6 quarterbacks, everybody started to slide down. And because everybody started to slide down, you have a number of guys that I think are talented. You have a number of guys that are talented on the offensive line. You still have a number of talented offensive playmakers at wide receiver. You still have especially one cornerback / safety who a lot of people, I think, like. So because you had the board fall the way it fell, that's opportunity for Eliot Wolf. The value of 34 now, to me, is very high, especially considering that, what is Buffalo going to do? Buffalo traded out of the first round last night. Now, they could trade that 33rd pick tonight for a veteran wide receiver. That would not surprise me. They could trade down as well, but will they trade down again after trading down multiple times last night? Or will they just stick and pick? We know Buffalo needs a wide receiver. So will Buffalo stick and pick at 33? If Buffalo sticks and picks at 33, you have the pick tonight, right? As the old heads would say, you're in the catbird seat. Like you are in a great position. You're in a great position to do damage. Because if the Bills are staying put at 33, then you look at this and you say to yourself as Eliot Wolf, the second round starts with us. Just like the first round really started with you. We found out last night, Eliot Wolf said they knew for weeks that Jaden Daniels was going to Washington, at least for a couple of weeks. So the draft really started with you at 3. You had the cards. You could have traded with Minnesota. You could have traded with the Giants. Both teams had offers on the table. The draft began with you. Williams and Jaden Daniels, it was a fait accompli across the NFL. Those were the top 2 picks. So just like last night, tonight, if Buffalo is going to stay put at 33, The draft begins with you. And if Buffalo is going to trade that 33rd pick for a veteran wide receiver, the draft still begins with you, because every other team that is underneath your slot, if they want to move up, they're calling you. Eliot Wolf's phone, I think, is going to be very busy today. Outbound calls, inbound calls. You're going to have teams looking to climb up, and you have lots of talent. Let's talk about that talent. Wide receiver, you still have Ladd McConkey. Wide receiver, you still have A.D. Mitchell. I love A.D. Mitchell's talent. If you're telling me that A.D. Mitchell, the questions about his maturity, if the Patriots feel good about A.D. Mitchell, the man, and look, I can't tell you. I obviously can't tell you that. I don't know if A.D. Mitchell is a good guy, a bad guy. I can't tell you if he is super mature or has issues with maturity. There were those reports, last week from scouts saying that he runs hot and cold. He's not a good leader. There's been questions about his motor. So if you have questions about A.D. Mitchell, the human being, then you have to pass on him. And that's the part that we don't know. We can only talk about his talent and what we see on the field, because on the field, his talent, I would take A.D. Mitchell in a heartbeat at 34. If you told me before this draft that you end up with Drake Maye and A.D. Mitchell, I would love that. From a talent perspective, from a potential perspective, A.D. Mitchell would be very similar in the second round to what the Patriots did in the first round last night. It would be a big swing. It would be taking a big hack on that potential, that superstar potential. So if Mitchell is there and you like him as a human being, if everything checked out, and that's what these guys do, right? They talk to their teammates, they talk to their coaches, they talk to people around them. They really investigate these dudes. So if Eliot Wolf and Drake Maye feel good about A.D. Mitchell, the person, I would have absolutely 0.0 issue with drafting A.D. Mitchell at 34. He's at the top of my board talent-wise. He's the guy right now. Drake Maye, to me, was the top available quarterback to the Patriots. I had him above Jaden Daniels. And A.D. Mitchell, when you look at these other receivers, McConkey, Keon Coleman is another name. A.D. Mitchell, to me, is the guy that's on top of the board, talent-wise, at wide receiver. And A.D. Mitchell is an X. He is an X. He's big. He's fast. He makes plays at the catch point. He really is the prototypical guy that you would be looking for if you're the Patriots trying to get that next X. So I think McConkey, Coleman, and Mitchell are the names you look at for wide receiver. Tackle, Sua Ma'atia is available. Kingsley is available. And so if you're looking at tackle, and for me, I grade tackle above receiver. I believe you build the football team from the inside out. I've said that multiple times. You build it in the trenches, inside out. I'm not comfortable walking into the season with Chuck Okorafor as your starting left tackle. So if you're looking at tackle, Sua Ma'atia, he is going to be there. Unless Buffalo trades with somebody and that somebody picks him at 33. But Sua Ma'atia is the guy that we've talked about an awful lot on this show. The mock draft that I did with Greg Bedard, that's what I had the Patriots doing. I had the Patriots trading back late into the first round. My first mock, I had them trading late into the first round for Amarius Mims. Obviously, Mims went last night, at like 18? With Greg Bedard's podcast that I do with Greg, I had the Patriots trading into the late first round to draft Sua Ma'atia. So if he's there at 34, I would have no issue with that. Another guy that you look at, Patrick Paul. I would have absolutely no issue with Paul. And I see Mr. Snoopy saying Sua Ma'atia is a right tackle. He could play both. He played both at college. He's athletic enough. He pretty much split 50-50, right side, left side. So I think Sua Ma'atia could absolutely be a left tackle. From what I've read and from how BYU played him, I think he could do that. I think he could be that guy. So you've got him, you've got Paul, you've got Rosengarten from Washington. He's on the board. Now, how do you feel about him? Guard/tackle. Think he's more of a guard, more of a tackle? How do you feel? But Rosengarten's a very, very talented offensive lineman. He was on the best offensive line in the country protecting Penix out in Washington. So you have him still on the board. And if you want to go outside the box, and look, if you ask me, it's so difficult. It's really about the horizontal board. I want tackle, but I think A.D. Mitchell, if his personal stuff checks out, is the best prospect to me on the board at need. So, I wouldn't be super upset if the Patriots drafted A.D. Mitchell at 34 because they say, hey, the horizontal board. And it really depends on how deep they think tackle is. Right? So it's all about how you feel. I've got a crush on A.D. Mitchell, so, maybe I would pick him over the tackle. But generally speaking, tackle is more important for your football team. So if you asked me, I would lean towards the tackle, but I love A.D. Mitchell, so if they drafted Mitchell, I wouldn't lose my mind too much about that, right? If you want to think outside the box, if you want to go defense, I think some people's brains would melt, but if you want to go defense, you have Cooper DeJean, who's still on the board. Now, he's coming off of a significant injury, but he's a very athletic guy. He's a very versatile defensive back. He can be a cornerback. He can be a safety. He can play both. Now, I would not draft defense in the second round. We went into this draft saying offense, 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 and I still stand by that. But if you do go defense, DeJean is a guy. Like, I would not be surprised if teams are calling the Patriots to try to get to 34 to draft Cooper DeJean. Like, I would not be surprised by that whatsoever. So if you want to go a little outside the box for a talented, athletic guy who fills a need, cornerback is a need, free safety is a need. And he's one of the top guys on the board right now. So if you wanted to go outside the box and go defense, you could do that. All right, we have a lot more. Don't forget to give us that like, thumbs up. All the thumbs mean the world to me. That's how we build this brand. I say it over and over and over again. You know the spiel by now. Give us that thumbs up so we can beat the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe. The goal is 3,500 subscribers. We're going to take that slow march getting there, but we are going to get there. I'm confident we will hit that mark. Rate and review Spotify, Apple Pods. Had a lot of fun last night. We had a Patreon chat. If you want to go check out the Patreon, you can do that as well. It is patreon.com/Nick Cattle, CATTLES, $5 a month, $1.25 a week. Let's jump into some super chats before we continue. Thunder Francis, thinking it's a trade down to where they think the tackle will be that they want. That's absolutely a possibility. Absolutely a possibility. When you look at this draft, again, you have so much talent. You really do. Like McConkey, Mitchell, Coleman, Suamataia, I think. I'm trying to pronounce that name as best as I can. You've got Paul. You've got Rosengarten. You've got DeJean. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys I just named. So, I mean, if you feel comfortable trading down, that's absolutely a possibility. Thunder Francis. And I think that Wolf's going to be on the phone all freaking day. He's picking up that phone all day. Ring-a-ding-ding-ding-ding-dingy. And he's picking up that puppy. What do you want? What do you got? Here's what I need. I would imagine Wolf is very, very busy. Very busy. He said last night that he wants more picks. He said we have 7 picks. To get more picks would be great. So if you slide down a couple of spots, if you think you can get Patrick Paul, if you can get Paul, around 40, 42, if you can move down that board, still get the tackle that you like and pick up extra picks, it makes a lot of sense. If you think that Keon Coleman might slide a few spots and you like Coleman, I know he's a very polarizing prospect, but you can make that deal. So the idea of trading down, I don't think it's crazy at all. It's all about the value. And the Patriots might have, you look at these 6 or 7 guys, these guys might be really close to each other with the grade. And so if you are, if you're Eliot Wolf and you're looking at, let's say, for example, Keon Coleman versus Paul, and those grades are really close, and you can deal your pick and move down 3 or 4 spots, you still feel good that you're going to land one of those guys. Then you get the extra draft capital and you make the move. And with that extra draft capital, let's not forget, the Patriots also have, a top pick in the 3rd round, a top pick in the 4th round. If they want to move back into the 2nd, same kind of thing we talked about with the 1st round. You're at the top of the 2nd round. You've got a bunch of quality football players on the board, and you can manipulate the board any way you want. You can move back. You can trade back in later on. I mean, there's just a bunch of things that you can do. And that's why I think the Patriots are in a great position right now. A lot of opportunity today. You look back at Tom Curran last night, Brandon Aiyuk, right? What did Curran say? I tweeted it out. And man, that tweet went viral. It was bananas. Bunch of people were like just retweeting and commenting and liking that tweet. But Tom Curran said last night on NBC Sports Boston that the Patriots had been working on a deal for Brandon Aiyuk. He said there wasn't anything solid on it yet, which means they weren't close to an agreement, but the Patriots were talking to San Francisco. They were talking to San Francisco leading up to this draft, and they were talking to them about Aiyuk. Now, again, Josina Anderson, the beginning of the show, we shared this. She tweeted out the Patriots were talking to the Niners about Deebo Samuel. Could that be some games from San Francisco? Absolutely. But Tom Curran said last night that they had been talking about Aiyuk. And what Tom said was, if you get to 31, if you get to the 31st pick in this draft tonight, and the Niners draft a wide receiver, then we should all start wondering about whether or not the Patriots can seal the deal with Aiyuk. And what happened? You got to pick 31 last night, and the Niners drafted Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver. I do not think the Niners are keeping both Aiyuk and Deebo after spending a 1st-round pick at that same position. I don't think you're going to pay Deebo what he's making and give Aiyuk the bag and also invest a 1st-round pick at the same position. I don't think they're going to do that. So now the question is, the $1 million question is Aiyuk going to actually be available? Is San Francisco willing to pull that trigger? I think they're going to try to trade Deebo first. But if they don't get what they want for Deebo, will they pivot and deal Aiyuk? And if they do, the Patriots have done the work. They have done the work. San Francisco now knows they're not getting a 1st-round pick for Aiyuk. Obviously, 1st round is gone. So they're not going to get that 1st-round pick that they wanted. And you go back to Mike Silver, and I know Mike Silver last night tweeted out that from what he had been hearing, it was more likely San Francisco would trade Deebo than it would trade Aiyuk. Well, that's great. I know that's what San Francisco wants. But what does the market tell San Francisco? What do other teams want? And so doing the homework, doing the legwork on Aiyuk sets you up for this now. This is why you have those conversations leading up to the draft. Even if you're not close on something just yet, you keep talking. You keep making calls because you keep working San Francisco. Because the Niners, they wanted a 1st-round pick for Aiyuk. They now know that's not going to happen. And Aiyuk wants money. He wants the bag. TJ Houshmandzadeh said on the radio this week that Aiyuk is looking at like $27 million for the AAV. Are the Niners willing to pay that? Are they willing to pay that kind of freight? Because now they know that they're not going to get a 1st-round pick. So the best they can do right now, they have to make a decision, right? It feels like they have to make a decision today because you're trying to get the best compensation that you can get for one of your receivers. So if you're sitting there, if Buffalo is not willing and Buffalo has money issues, they could rework contracts, they could do all of that, and maybe they can pull off a trade for Aiyuk. But if it's not Buffalo, it's New England. And that phone is ringing. And if you're San Francisco and you're not sure you're going to be able to keep Aiyuk and nobody is really bending over backwards for Deebo Samuel, you're stuck in a tough position. And you might have to pull that trigger and say, we'll take 34 for Aiyuk. We're not going to pay him. We can't pay everybody. We got Ricky Pearsall. He can play the X. We got Pearsall who can play the X. We got Deebo who can play that Z. And we're fine. We'll roll with that. We got Jawan Jennings as well, who can play, kind of a bigger slot role. And they make the deal. So it's going to be fascinating. I mean, I will tell you, if the Patriots walk away, if they walk away with Drake Maye and Brandon Aiyuk, I don't know who could complain about that. Eliot Wolf would be straight fire if he pulled that off. All right, we got a lot more coming up. Don't forget, give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before I hit some super chats. I want to remind you, the Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Warzone has 9 maps on 30-plus acres of land, multiple villages, hilltop forts. They've got paintball. They've got airsoft. Guess what? They've got paintball and airsoft. They have those as well for all ages, starting at 6+. Show up with jeans, good shoes, a long-sleeve shirt. Warzone will handle the rest. Laid back, low-key, casual. Call them up. If you like paintball, if you like airsoft, they're in North Kingston, Rhode Island, 401-228-6366. That's 401-228-6366. Tell them the Nick Cattle Show sent you. All right. I have a lot of thoughts on some of the things that stood out to me last night that we didn't get to cover. But before I do that, and there's a lot of stuff that has trickled out about the Patriots, their commitment to Drake Maye, their conviction on that pick. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss some of the details that have creeped out. But first, let's hit some of these super chats. After the huddle, $10 super chat. Thank you, ATH. Did a 3-hour show last night for the first time. What's better for us in your eyes? Trade for a wide receiver or draft one? Really think Buffalo goes AD tonight. Well, if Buffalo goes AD Mitchell tonight, then I've said this, I'm fine with trading for a receiver. I'm fine for trading, for a veteran wide receiver one, somebody that can play the X. If they could trade 34 for Aiyuk, I'd be all over it. My prior concerns about trading for a veteran was paying that veteran, but also paying a huge amount asset-wise. If it's just a 34 pick, the way this offseason has gone, you have the money to dump into a wide receiver one. You can pay Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, let's put it this way. It's rather obvious, right? Would the Patriots be having conversations with the Niners if they didn't think they were going to pay Brandon Aiyuk? The Patriots have obviously made the decision that they are willing to back up the Brinks truck for Aiyuk or maybe another wide receiver one. If you're not willing to pay the money, you're not making the calls. You're not trying to trade for the guy. So they have the money. The money's not an issue. If it's just 34, give me Aiyuk. He's 25, 26 years old. We talked about him. He's a great scheme fit. He has produced. He's gotten better and better. So give me Aiyuk. He's walking into his prime. He's a legitimate number one receiver. He's a legitimate X receiver. So for the 34th pick, yes, because he's a bona fide known, right? He's a known quantity. As much as I love A.D. Mitchell, and as much as I really like Ladd McConkey, and I'm actually pro Keon Coleman, I know he's polarizing, but there's no guarantee any of those guys are going to work out. Ladd McConkey has had some injury issues. A.D. Mitchell, again, where's his maturity at? And Coleman, is he athletic enough? People are concerned that he's another N'Keal Harry. So you know what Aiyuk is. You've seen him in the NFL. You've seen him be a number one outside guy. If you can get him a bona fide proven number one, if you can get somebody like that for the 34th pick, I'm making that deal every day of the week and twice on Sunday. See what I did there? That's what I would do. All right, let's go to AO Box, $10 super chat. I appreciate you. If I'm correct, didn't Diggs go for picks next year? Any chance we can get Higgins or Aiyuk for next year picks and draft 80, 34, tackle at 68? That's how you weaponize. I mean, look, if you could pull that off, if you could make a deal for Brandon Aiyuk for picks next year, if you can make that deal, and then you come back and draft A.D. Mitchell, yeah, that's weaponizing the offense. Now, to me, It really, again, depends on the horizontal board, but I'm leaning tackle at 34. If you have to use 34 for a receiver, I get it, because, again, you're getting a bona fide guy, a bona fide number one. Totally understand that. Would be totally fine with that. You've just got to make other moves and make sure that you address the tackle spot, which, again, Eliot Wolf last night said, we need to add more weapons to this offense, and we need to shore up the offensive line. He said both of those things last night. He knows. He told us. Black and white right there. There's no doubt about that. So he is going to add weapons. If you traded the 34th pick for a veteran wide receiver, then what I would say is you use the 34th pick on a tackle if you really like a tackle. And then you go back at 68 and you add a wide receiver at 68, because you could still get, a good wide receiver at 68. You're not going to likely get a number one receiver at 68. You might not get a number one receiver at 34. But you don't need that number one receiver if you trade a future pick for a bona fide number one wide receiver. And by the way, the Stephon Diggs trade, Diggs to the Texans, it was Diggs in a 6th round pick and a 2025 5th rounder for a 2nd rounder next year. So yes, it was a future 2nd round pick for Diggs. So if you can pull off a future asset for Aiyuk, I mean, my freaking goodness, that would be just unbelievable. And then you could be still sitting there at 34 and draft that tackle. Thank you, AO Box. I appreciate you. Appreciate the super chat. New York 228, not having a wide receiver one is like not having a closer in baseball. Once we get the wide receiver one, all the other wide receivers will slot into their roles. Yeah, I agree with that. Like right now, you have really good depth 2 to 5, right? Like 2 through 5, I feel good about this depth chart. I really do, at wide receiver. If you go out and you get Aiyuk, you've got Aiyuk, who's a bona fide one. You've got Kendrick Bourne, who I think, if healthy, can be a 2. You've got KJ Osborne, who is a 2/3. And then you've got Pop in the slot. Do some gadget stuff with him too. And I would still draft a young receiver. And I would have that young receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, have them all show up at camp and battle it out. That's what I would do. But I feel pretty decent about the wide receiver depth that they've built. That wide receiver room is better this year than it was last year already. KJ Osborne's better than Devontae Parker. That's an upgrade. I'm not saying they're by leaps and bounds better, but that's an upgrade. If you add a bona fide one, absolutely. Thank you, New York 228, for the super chat. If you want to jump to the front of the line, I'm in the super chatville right now. I could see there's 121 comments, 122 comments in the chat. So if you want to try to jump the line, you can do that by sending a super chat. Marilyn T is back. One of my favorites. Marilyn's an OG. She's been hanging out on this podcast since the very beginning. She's been traveling the world. She was in LA last night, I think. Late to the party, but woohoo! Excited to see what happens at 34 tonight. Ad and I will be hard to leave behind. I agree if Buffalo doesn't go with him, but God, we need a tackle. Have you talked about this yet? Well, yeah, we went through it, but I'll go through it again because I don't feel like I was clear enough when I first talked about it. So I love A.D. Mitchell. Love him. I have a man crush on him as a football player. He is one of my favorite receivers in this draft. But I also believe in building a team inside out, and left tackle to me is more of a priority. But with that said, A.D. Mitchell, like to me, it's so difficult. You have to know the board. That's why it's so difficult, because I would say if you don't feel like you can get, a legitimate tackle in the late 2nd round, try to move back into that round, then you go tackle at 34 because, you don't feel great about it. But then you look at Mitchell, talent-wise, Mitchell's a 1st round pick. And we don't know the maturity stuff. We don't know. So I lean tackle because of the importance of the position. But if the Patriots have A.D. Mitchell graded as a 1st round guy, then I'm not going to hate on the pick because I love A.D. Mitchell and I trust Eliot Wolf. And if it's a first-round grade versus a second-round grade, they're both positions of need. Take the best player available, right? So take the best player available if you're the Patriots. I have not watched enough of the offensive tackles that are left to compare them to A.D. Mitchell. I've watched a good amount of A.D. Mitchell. And again, I love the guy. So if the Patriots are looking at this and they're saying A.D. Mitchell, first-round talent versus Suamataia, who is a second-round talent to them, take the best player available. Off the eye test, me, it's Mitchell because I haven't seen the other guys enough. But football philosophy-wise, tackle is the priority. So, it's really difficult because I'm not sitting here breaking down film of Suamataia, and everything that he did. So, philosophy-wise, I think the priority is tackle, but you still need a receiver. You still need a wide receiver one. And if A.D. Mitchell checks out, you have him as a first-round guy, then I can't complain about drafting Mitchell. All right, AO Box. Oh, yeah. Eliot said we need speed for Maye, calling it right now. Taekwon breakout when Maye takes over. LMAO in parentheses, let's hope. Look, man, I appreciate the super chat, but I'm done with the Taekwon Thornton business. If he ends up being a surprise, great. If you get something out of Taekwon Thornton, it's like hitting the lottery. Fantastic. But I am not going to put any hope into Taekwon Thornton. He has not deserved it. He has not earned it. If he shows up and he balls out and all of a sudden he's a different guy, great. Fantastic. Then that makes you a better football team, which I'm all for. As Marilyn T, she comes back and says diabetes can be managed. Absolutely. But I think the question, and Tony backs this up here, is the effort. And the $1 million question with A.D. Mitchell is whether or not the effort is a health issue or if it's just a motor issue. Flying Elvis asking me where the beer and lime is. It's before noon. Don't worry. We'll be back tonight. I will have beer in hand. Trust me. It's a Friday night. All right. So let's get to some other things. You guys can continue to send your questions and comments. Again, I feel like I'm so torn about the A.D. Mitchell versus tackle conversation. But, man, talent-wise, Mitchell. Priority-wise, tackle. If I was Eliot Wolf, I'd be going back and forth. I'm so flippity-floppity on this. I'm going to admit it. I'm flippity-floppity on it. I'm so torn. I'd probably lean towards A.D. Mitchell because, again, he's kind of a binky for me, and I think the dude is supremely talented. If you can get him to plug in, so to speak, week in and week out. All right, let's continue. A lot of things were said last night. A lot of important things were said last night. A lot of things were reported last night. I want to fill you in on all of it. The Patriots, if you were wondering, were the Patriots committed? Were they? Were they absolutely committed to Drake Maye? Did they have conviction on the pick? Don't forget, thumbs up and subscribe. Here was Mark Daniels and what he wrote at Mass Live. The Patriots knew what they were going to do all along. Eliot Wolf knew for weeks that the Patriots were going to draft Drake Maye. On Thursday night, the Patriots' de facto general manager revealed his team never seriously considered any quarterback outside of the top three, nor did they really think they were going to trade down. So all of the smoke, all of the talk, all of the rumor and innuendo about J.J. McCarthy and trading down, Eliot Wolf was looking at the top three quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy was not an option at 3. Thank you. I had said I wasn't buying that noise, that he was going to go 3. And the only way you pick him before you get to, around 10 or so or later in this first round is if you feel like you have to pick him because you might not have a shot at him, right? Like if you feel the desperation. But he was not a top 3 pick. And Eliot Wolf, he was not focused on McCarthy at 3. He just wasn't. That was a bunch of BS. He called it BS last night. So if you thought McCarthy was going to go to the Patriots, it was never even freaking on the board, according to Mark Daniels. And that's why I think Tom Curran last night before the draft, he definitively came out, and I tweeted this. At Nick C Radio. There it is, Nick. Get it straight. At Nick C Radio. I tweeted this. Curran came out and said, the Patriots are not going to draft J.J. McCarthy at 3. He said that last night. Now, I know that Curran liked McCarthy, and he talked McCarthy up during the process. But last night, he said the Patriots are not drafting. I can tell you the Patriots are not drafting McCarthy. So it's rather obvious that Curran got the information that Eliot Wolf was not going to draft J.J. McCarthy at 3. It was not in consideration. They found out that Daniels was going to Washington a couple of weeks ago, and at that moment, they knew that it was May or a ridiculous offer that was just not going to be able to be turned down. So they were committed to May. Back to Mark Daniels. Wolf said the Patriots found out 2 weeks ago that the Commanders would draft Daniels, as I just mentioned. At that point, the Patriots came to a consensus to draft May. Wolf said last night, quote, yeah, it was pretty obvious at that point. Daniels writes that might sound like a surprise considering there were reports that the Patriots were considering trade offers. However, that was never truly the case. Instead, as Wolf explained, the Patriots listened to other teams but were locked in on drafting a quarterback. When it came to trade offers, Wolf admitted the team would not budge because of how much they liked the quarterbacks in this draft class. So they were asking for the Godfather offer, and in their estimation, it was not worth it to move away from Drake Maye. None of it was worth it. Wolf said, quote, we had some conversations with other teams, but ultimately we felt like Drake was the player that we wanted and had the opportunity to get him. So the Patriots were committed to Drake Maye. They had conviction with the pick. They took the big swing. That is everything I said. And here's what I will say to all of you. For those who do not like Drake Maye, and I think the majority of people are happy with the pick, but for those who might not like Drake Maye, I wonder if you at least respect the process, if you respect the decision. If that's how you look at this. Because before this draft, we said, take the big swing, have conviction, be committed to the guy, and believe in him. And that's what they did. By the way, quick update on the 49ers wide receiver stuff. Mike Silver posted, play this out. 49ers don't trade Debo. They pay Aiyuk. Debo then has a lame duck season in which he watches his successor and the incumbent receiver they chose over him be focal points of the offense. Seems awkward. I expect a trade. So Silver continues to pump the idea that it's more likely that Debo is gone than Aiyuk. And, of course, Josina Anderson reported this morning that the Patriots have discussed Debo with the Niners heading into the draft. So the Patriots were committed in Drake Maye. I have more thoughts, but first, let's jump to another super chat. You guys are hopping today. Jannard Walker, I'm surprised we haven't heard any Amari Cooper trade talks. Well, Jannard, it sounds like, at least from what I've read, it sounds like Cleveland is fine with keeping Amari Cooper. And at least that sounds like it's the plan. Now, will they change their mind? I don't know. I have no clue. But there's really been no indication that Amari is on the trade block. There's no indication that the Browns are entertaining the idea of trading Cooper. Maybe they've just kept it quiet, but I have not seen anything. You know, that was more us looking at the moves that Cleveland has made and saying, well, it would make sense because Cooper has like 1 year left on his contract. Would they move on from him? They traded for Judy. They signed Judy to that extension. But so far, there's really been no smoke from Cleveland about Amari Cooper. All right, some other things that stood out to me. Burt Breer, Ian Rappaport, and other reporters said the Patriots did get offers. And some of those reporters said that the offers for number 3 that the Patriots got were strong offers, were very strong offers, were great offers, were significant offers, whichever adjective you want to use. And the Patriots turned down those offers. So this wasn't a case of the Patriots just trying to build up the value of the pick and then move out of there. It was, no, we don't want that trade. We don't want that trade. Burt Breer said this morning on Toucher and Hardy 98.5 that he knows for a fact Minnesota offered 11-23 in their first-round pick next year, and the Patriots swatted it away. Said thanks, but no thanks. It wasn't close to what they wanted. Thank God, because I don't think that's enough. I think Eliot Wolf did it right. My number one thing was to draft the quarterback, to draft Drake Maye, which they did. But if they didn't love Maye, then you take the bag. It's, you're looking at 11-23 in next year's pick. Drew F says that Breer said there was no premium offer, though. I'll take your word for it. Again, we're playing around with semantics and adjectives. People have said that there were good offers, big offers. Some people have said significant. There were offers on the table. The Patriots were happy with Maye. They wanted Maye. And it makes a lot of sense, too, because if, Burt said this morning, if you think about it, the Patriots could have made that deal with Minnesota and still ended up with J.J. McCarthy. So that should tell you they absolutely wanted Maye more than McCarthy, because they could have traded down to 11 and then pulled off a deal. Now, of course, the deal Minnesota pulled off was with the Jets. And with the Jets trade with the Patriots, that's a question. But the whole full Monty idea, moving down and then moving back up, it was at least a possibility because the Giants passed on McCarthy. So you could have tried to work something out and still land McCarthy with the assets, but they were sold on Drake Maye, which I'm a fan of. Again, conviction, commitment. All right. The Patriots are also preaching patience, which I think is smart. Here's what Mayo said last night on Drake Maye, and I'm absolutely going to screw that up at least 100 times this season. Mayo and Maye. I'm ready for it. Here's what Mayo said, quote, "They try to put timetables on it, but you just never know when that time is going to be as far as starting a rookie or playing a rookie. If you look over the history of the league, sometimes guys," he's talking about quarterbacks, "they can go in there and start game one and have a Pro Bowl season. Then other guys, they sit for 2 or 3 years and they have a great season or great career. But it can also go the other way. You sit for 2 years and have a terrible career. I think it's hard to really put a timeline on when he will be ready. Once again, look, I don't want you guys to forget about the quarterbacks that we have on our roster. And it's about competing, and it's about going out there every day, striving to get better." Perfect. Perfect from Gerard Mayo. We've criticized Mayo for saying too much in the past or, making certain mistakes. I hope the same people that crushed Mayo on every little detail, I hope those same people have that same energy talking about how Mayo handled the Drake Maye future questions last night, because you can't answer that any better. There's no timeline. There's no rush. I'm not forgetting the other quarterbacks in the room that we have on this roster. The best guy plays. That's the right answer. Ding, ding, ding. That's the right answer. Do not rush this guy. I've said it. He might have to sit the entire year. If that makes him better in the long run, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. If you think Drake Maye, if he sits this year, if you think sitting Drake Maye this season will make Drake Maye much, much better next year, then you do it 10 times out of 10. I said it leading up to the draft. The number 3 pick was about 2025 to 2035. It wasn't about 2024. There's no need to rush. Don't forget, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Patreon page if you want to help. You want to help a guy out? $5 a month, $1.25 a week for exclusive content over at the Patreon. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. Here's another thing Eliot Wolf said last night. Leading up to the draft, we spent a lot of time talking about consensus and how the Patriots would need the coaching staff to be aligned on the pick. And I believe we talked about that yesterday. Everything runs into each other because we did 3 pods yesterday. And I appreciate every one of you for sticking with me throughout the day. We'll do another pod tonight. If something breaks, if I say goodbye on this podcast and 30 minutes later Brandon Aiyuk gets traded to the Patriots, my ass is coming right back. I'm swinging right back around, and I'm putting this computer on, and I'm talking more football. But yesterday we talked about this idea that the coaching staff, they need to believe in the guy. They don't have to necessarily be head over heels for him, but they need to believe in him, because if you draft a quarterback that the coaching staff doesn't believe in, is not a fit for the system, is not a fit for the staff doesn't believe that they can, develop the guy and make him better, then you're wasting the pick. Eliot Wolf said last night as I punched the desk that he spoke with Alex Van Pelt, he spoke with T.C. McCartney, he spoke with Ben McAdoo, and they talked about the footwork. They talked about the mechanics. They talked about certain things regarding Drake Maye that he has to tweak, get better. They talked about that. And he got assurances. Eliot Wolf said last night that he got assurances from Van Pelt, McCartney, and McAdoo that the footwork, the mechanics, they're fixable. So Eliot Wolf relied on his offensive staff. He relied on the guys who have worked with quarterbacks. And he said, this is what we see on film. Can we fix this? Can we make Drake Maye better? Can we improve him? Can we fix or tweak those things? I just saw this. This is fantastic. Our radio is beyond brutal. Hate Nick's takes, but at least the show and chat is solid. Well, I appreciate you. You hate every take? You hate every take? All right. I'm glad you listen. I'm glad you hang out. I appreciate you, man. Right? Love, hate. If you hang out, you enjoy yourself, you're entertained, all good in my book. So Wolf got assurances from the offensive staff. Great. Exactly what should have happened. We talked about the challenges at North Carolina and how Drake Maye, the offensive line wasn't very good. The weapons weren't very good. Tez Walker had some eligibility issues because the NCAA was being the NCAA. Well, we weren't the only ones talking about that. The Patriots were talking about that. Andrew Callahan posted, the Patriots did not believe Maye was well positioned or protected in UNC's new offense. Callahan also said that the interviews with Team Brass knocked it out of the park. So the Patriots, in their estimation, they were looking at the film and they said, UNC stunk. Pretty much. Like that was how they looked at it. And we had that question. How much of 2023 do you put on Maye, and how much do you put it on what he was dealing with? Obviously, it's a balance of both. Maye had his mistakes. Maye did things that he shouldn't have done, all that. But at the end of the day, Eliot Wolf, Mayo, the offensive staff, they looked at the film and they said, this guy was destined to not be good. He was destined to not have the same kind of year in 23 as he had in 22. He was positioned to fail last year with the offense and with the lack of protection that he got. I also found this interesting. Eliot Wolf said about Drake Maye last night, he was one of the only quarterbacks in this draft that after a loss met with the media. He understands what it means to be a leader. How many times did we hear from Wolf and Mayo? Leadership, maturity. Is he a guy that the other guys want to play alongside? And I thought that was a revealing quote from Wolf last night, pointing to the fact that, Maye was one of the only quarterbacks that met with the media after losses. He took accountability. And he didn't. And that's the thing. Like last night, Eliot Wolf said, and Mayo said that they brought Drake Maye into the room And when they were showing him the lowlights of his film, that Drake Maye consistently took accountability for all the mistakes. Even if he did not make the mistake, he took the accountability for the mistake. And you can look at that and you could say, well, he was coached up. He was coached up. He knew what to expect, right? He knew exactly what to expect. And of course he took accountability. But what Eliot Wolf is saying is, no, he did that in real time. When UNC wasn't good, when UNC lost games, when they lost games they should not have lost, Drake Maye stood up. He spoke to the media. He took accountability. And part of that is he's from an athletic family, right? His brothers, his father, his mother, I think he's got a sister. They're all either collegiate athletes or professional athletes. And so in the real moment, in real time, he stood in front of the media, Drake Maye did, and he took the bullets for his team. And that meant a lot. And I agree with that. Got a couple of super chats here. My girl Amy. Sorry, Amy. We're not going to be able to hang out tonight. Wish we could. But draft business, as they say. I appreciate you, Amy, with the super chat. And again, I tell you, you don't have to send me super chats. Amy is a personal friend of mine. She's like a sister. You can always just hang out. I will pull up Amy, though, because she's, if I could find her comment. She didn't send her comment with the super chat. Let me find it. Come on, Amy. Got to be better than that. Here it is. Taking the victory lap. Just saying. I called it December 3rd. Check your messages. I will. I'll check my messages. Choo Choo. $2 super chat. Thank you. If we don't get Mitchell, let's draft the tackle. Yes. Yep. If it's not AD Mitchell, then I am going out and I am going out and getting a tackle. Sorry, I was thrown off. I saw people saying that somebody's making something about race. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's do the politics stuff, making things about race. Don't do that. I can't keep track. I don't have a producer, so I can't be going to the comments and, let's stay away from that stuff. Okay. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. I would say overall, the Patriots understand the mission. And if you could take anything from the last 12 to 16 hours, what you should take away from the Drake Maye selection is that the Patriots understand the mission. They get it. They're swinging for big talent. They're swinging for high ceiling. And they understand that they need to support the player, that no quarterback that you drafted is going to be a magic wand, so to speak. That you have to still support the guy with the coaching staff, with the offensive line, with the weapons around him. If you need to be patient with the quarterback, if that makes him better, then you be patient with the quarterback. They drafted a quarterback that fits with what they want to do offensively. They drafted a quarterback that has the high ceiling. Somebody who they know is raw and frankly could fall on his face, but they took the big swing. And that's what they should do at 3. Eliot Wolf last night mentioned, we need to add more weapons. We need to shore up the offensive line. This is a staff, from the coaching staff to the front office. They understand the mission. The offense needs to get better. They're looking for legitimate talent. They offered $40 million guaranteed to Calvin Ridley. They took that swing on Drake Maye last night at 3. They're talking to teams about Brandon Aiyuk and other wide receiver ones. So if you can take anything away from how they are operating at Gillette Stadium, they are taking offense seriously. It's been about an hour. And they are trying. They are trying to sorry. Just going to do this for a minute. They are trying to, address the needs offensively. That's what they're trying to do. And they understand that you don't address it with just mediocre talent. They're going after the top talent. And by the way, I banned Twan because I saw that Twan was causing all sorts of issues. So I banned Twan. So he gone. And I don't ban people. I think I've banned like 2 people. It's because they come in here with ridiculous stuff and it's just not needed. So he's out of here. But the Patriots are focused. They're focused on the task at hand. They understand the mission. We should all be excited about that. They've got the offensive staff. They invest the resources. They've got the right guys, I believe, to develop a quarterback. They took the swing at that quarterback at 3 last night. They're looking for big-time wide receiver talent. They understand they need to shore up the offensive line. All of those things. They understand the mission. My final note. This has gone long, my goodness. But my final note. I appreciate you guys and gals sticking with me. The Giants, remember, the Giants reportedly were Drake Maye or a bust when it came to quarterback. They weren't interested in J.J. McCarthy. That was reported by multiple people last night. The Giants obviously have Brian Daboll, and he worked hand in hand. He worked hand in hand with Josh Allen. So I think you can look at the fact that the Giants were Drake Maye or bust with Brian Daboll's history and say to yourself, hey, man, that's a good sign that they felt that way about Drake Maye. And if you don't want to believe it in the Giants, it's rather obvious that Minnesota, they were trying to trade up to get Drake Maye. McCarthy was not their guy. Drake Maye was their guy. And that's why they were trying to feverishly trade up to 3. That's why they offered reportedly at least 11, 23, and a first-round pick next year. And when you think about Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell is very respected in the game. Highly respected when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, working with quarterbacks. Of course, he was a quarterback, and he wanted Drake Maye. Minnesota was thirsty for Drake Maye. It's not a guarantee that Drake Maye is going to work out. It is not a guarantee that Maye is going to work out. I've said that from the beginning. But it should make you feel at least decent. If you don't like the pick, try to feel decent about the opportunity that might arise here. If you like the pick or love the pick, I think this should reinforce that feeling. That you had some respected guys that have worked with some of the top quarterbacks in the league that are known for their quarterback evaluations. And you can bring in Ben McAdoo as well. You've got Ben McAdoo and his history of evaluating the quarterback position. Kevin O'Connell and his history. Brian Daboll and his history. All of those guys. Alex Van Pelt, who's worked with Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, Drake Maye said that Van Pelt showed film of Rodgers when he sat down and he had conversations with Drake Maye. Alex Van Pelt, McAdoo, O'Connell, Daboll. Those are some good names when you look at quarterback and quarterback evaluation. And across the board, Drake Maye was the guy that they wanted. Again, might not work out. But I think that's a good sign. Rob D, $5 for not allowing ignorance to ruin our community. Well, I appreciate you, Rob D, and I appreciate the super chat. Choo Choo comes in. Choo Choo. $2 super chat for keeping the community safe. Well, I thank you. You guys didn't have to do that, but I appreciate you. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review. If a big trade happens, I will be back relatively soon after it happens. If not, we'll see what happens with the draft tonight in the second round. I will be back tonight. Beer in hand. It's Friday. You guys, if you're into beverages, you can have a beer with me digitally, a digital beer, so to speak. If you don't drink beer, then take your drink of choice. We'll hang out tonight once we find out what the Patriots do. So that's the plan. I've gone over an hour. I've got to go have some lunch now. I'm a little parched as well. I appreciate every single one of you. Like, subscribe, rate, review, do all those good things. And I'll talk to you later today or tonight. Depends on what Eliot Wolf has up the sleeve. Hopefully, something very exciting. It's the Nick Cattle Show.